Hello, everyone. My name is Michał Bojanowski. I'm the Skills Development Leader at Blueprint Boulder. Blueprint Boulder is a student led organization at the University of Colorado Boulder aiming to help nonprofits in the local area with all their coding needs and solutions. If you're interested, please check out the description below. We'll leave a link to either our website if we have it up or our Google form for interest. And today we're going to talk about how to build your very first website and intro to modern web dev. This will be a 5-part series on YouTube, and so you'll be able to click on the playlist down in the description to see all the other videos. But this intro video is meant to basically get you started and make sure you're prepared for the next 4 videos. The next 4 videos, the goal is that someone with basic limited scripting knowledge can go from not knowing how to build a website at all to building one themselves. And even if you don't have scripting knowledge, this should be easy enough for anyone to pick up and get started. It's a pretty much zero to hero boot camp, as we'd call it. Anyways, thank you for joining, and let's get started. So the state of modern web development today is basically separated into website editors, which don't necessarily require any HTML coding, and we'll get into that later. And also a full stack solution, right? And this is the difference being is that most small businesses and hobbyists tend to choose the Wix or Weebly route, right? The website editor route, because it's easier. If you don't know how to code, they make it a very easy, like drag and drop systems, stuff like that. But if you're a more professional or you're more of a bigger company or need some more features that Wix or Weebly can't give you, that's where you see these full stack solutions. They use all these kind of big, complicated names like Heroku, Amazon Web Services, Node.js, etc. And that's basically, most websites these days are either going to be one or the other, right? They're either going to be built by a website builder or manually coded. So the question arises, if it's so easy to build a website with Wix or Weebly, why would we ever use, a manual coding solution if we're not such a big company, right? Why would you want to create your own website? Now, one of the biggest reasons is actually page load speed. Now, one of the big things about being a website is that you probably want people to visit it. And if you want people to visit it, you have to get ranked on Google, right? And Google actually kind of visits your website, right? And then does a few tests. And one of those tests is how fast your page loads, right? If it loads very fast, you get a high score and Google will push your website higher on those listings. And again, in the context of Blueprint Boulder, which we try to work with nonprofits on delivering coding solutions for them, they tend to want their own websites because it gives them exactly what they want. You can basically tailor each and every portion of that website to make it exactly how you like it. Versus with website builders, as many features as they have today, they're still pretty limited. You're pretty limited to a few templates, and while they can look good, they might not be exactly what your client wants. And one of the biggest reasons as well is just that eventually we'll get to learning how to build up the back end. And the back end basically helps you deliver dynamic content. So if you've gone to if you played a game in your web browser, or if you've gone to Facebook and have been able to see your Facebook posts, or even Twitter for their Twitter feed, that all comes from a back end, right? That's not your website that's doing that. That's Twitter's servers, their back end, that's giving you that content. So once you're able to build those servers yourself, you can do cool things like make a Twitter clone or stuff like that, right? So, but the only way to do that, you can't do that with Wix or Weebly, right? You have to have that front end knowledge as well. And then again, even if you do choose to use Wix or Weebly for speed or ease of use, you can still customize them using the stuff you'll learn in this 5-part series, right? They all allow you to give you specific HTML elements, and we'll get into what HTML is in a bit. But basically, using this course, you'll be able to even extend your knowledge and build even better websites, even using Wix and Weebly. Right. So let's define front end, back end, and here's where we'll get into HTML. Right. I've said that a few times. It's going to be very important for this course. So the back end, as we mentioned, adds a dynamic aspect to the page, right? If it's tweets, if it's Instagram posts, right? Anything that's dynamic, anything that'll change every time you come to the website, that has to be done with a backend, right? A front end is kind of a way to display that data, but the front end never changes, right? That's why we tend to call the front end responsible in the design, right? In the display of the data. And as you can see here, we kind of have a chart of different technologies, right? And where they exist on that spectrum. So MongoDB, that's a database solution. That's where a company like Twitter might store their actual tweets in. Node.js is going to give you a server solution. That might be the actual code that Twitter decides which tweets to send you, right? Same thing with, and then you put that on Amazon Web Services, right? Or Heroku. These host that code, that Node.js, that MongoDB. It's actually the server itself. And then as we start to go into the front end, we have things like GitHub Pages, which helps host static websites, right? Which don't have like this Amazon Web Services stuff or this Node.js. It's basically a way to publish your web page to the web without having to have all that backend. And you have Angular, which kind of helps, again, transition that backend content to front-end content. Again, you don't have to memorize any of these. I'm just giving a quick overview of kind of like the situation we're in. But if you are interested, there's plenty of good tutorials, and I'll be sure to link some in the description if after this series you want to get into further involved into web development. Definitely everything you see on the screen is very important. And today we'll be talking about Bootstrap. And Bootstrap's this little B logo and an HTML5. And so I think it might be better to start with HTML. Every single website, doesn't matter if you've done it through Wix or Weebly or coded it yourself, is an HTML page. It's an HTML file, kind of like a text file or a doc file if you've used Microsoft Word. And every single web page, including the one that I'm using Google Slides right now, this thing right here is an HTML file. I can actually show you that if I press F12, I can show you that this is HTML right here. It's a little zoomed out, but as you can see, this is what we're going to be learning. And this seems really complicated, but we're not going to go that complicated. So don't worry, don't be intimidated. But the point is, every single website is an HTML file. And in this course, we're going to teach you how to make that HTML file, right? How to stylize it, and then use this thing called Bootstrap to make it look good. HTML by itself is a very old technology going back to the 90s, and maybe even earlier. And it doesn't look great just by itself. And we'll go into that. You'll see that after we build our first web page. It won't look quite as professional as you want it. But Bootstrap solves this problem for us by basically giving us a bunch of styling options and doing it for us automatically to kind of, be able to build a nice and easy web page in the modern day. So as we see down here, today we'll focus on the front end, right? This is not a back end course. We're going to use Bootstrap. We might use GitHub Pages in a bonus episode, but the point is that we're going to focus on learning the basics of HTML, CSS3, which is just a basic styling language for HTML. And again, that'll make more sense once we get to it. And then once we're done with all that, we'll apply Bootstrap and we'll have a really nice professional looking web page that is ready to be uploaded to something like GitHub Pages to see on the web. So what makes up the front end? Like we said, HTML, right? Every single website is an HTML file, right? Any website you go to without any exception. So this is probably the most important thing. And this is an example of that. We're going to learn how to do this in the next video. So stay tuned for that. And we're going to basically go over what this HTML tag is, right? This weird kind of like caret, as we call them, these little symbols structure, right? So this is an example of that. And CSS is a styling language. You can create your own CSS files, but for ease of use, we'll just include them in the HTML because that's allowed. Again, we'll see how to do this in those respective episodes, so stay tuned. And finally, we have JavaScript. This helps create some dynamic, use, right, in your web page. It makes it able so you can click buttons and submit forms. And if you have a game like Agario, it's actually going to be running in JavaScript, right? Unfortunately, JavaScript is almost its own programming language, and the amount of depth that it adds to a website is so big that we won't really get into it this course. But this is an example of actually jQuery, a popular library, and you can see that what this does is actually, see if you can figure it out. It's written pretty well. I'll let you pause right now and see if you can figure it out. But anyways, if you're not too interested in that, it basically adds this like accordion thing and then allows you to toggle an accordion element. And if you're not sure what that is, I'll probably put an image on the screen right now. So that's what that is. And congrats if you got it right. You're well on your way to being an HTML master. So like I said, today we're going to focus on HTML5 and use Bootstrap to build a clean and functioning website. We will dive into CSS3, but we won't use JavaScript for now. And this is kind of a starting point, right? This series. It's not a full in-depth course on either of these, but I will link to full in-depth courses in case you are interested. The point is to go from zero to hero, to be able to not have any knowledge at all to building your first website by the end of the series. So at this point, we're going to start a code demo. But again, this is meant to be a live demonstration. Now that it's kind of a video, what I can do is actually show you how to set up your environment. And this is going to be very important. So we're going to follow the first link down below. It's going to lead you to this Visual Studio download. It doesn't matter what system you have. As you can see, Windows, Linux, or Mac, just download the one that is for your system. And once you have that installed, it should pop up in a window like this. So once you're here, you're great, right? So what we're going to also do is go to that second link. You'll land here to my GitHub. In fact, you probably won't see this. You'll probably see this page instead. This is the page that I meant to link to. And you're going to want to click on this code button here. And don't worry about Git. We'll have a workshop on that later. But for now, just download the zip and make sure you download it to a good place in your file system. So in this case, I already have it downloaded. We're going to go into here. It should show up as a zip file. So you're going to want to unzip it. Now, if you don't know how in Windows, it's very easy. Same thing in Mac. In Mac, it might automatically do it for you, but we're just going to click on it, extract all, make sure we extract it, and we're good. So now finally, we should have our files. Once you have your files, we're just going to want to open this in VS Code. So we're going to copy that link there. We're going to go here into VS Code. We're going to want to open a folder, right? We want to go to that folder that we were just talking about and select it. And if everything was done right, you should see this. You should see your 3 files here on the left. Sorry if it's a little tiny. I'll try to see if I can zoom in on the editing, but you should be able to see your index, which is where we'll do most of our coding. And then also I've had this very handy example folder. The next 4 videos will go over each of these checkpoints. And these checkpoints are kind of like a completed version of what we'll do in those videos. So once again, you have those as a reference. So if you ever get lost in a video, you can look here, and I've commented out a few helpful tips about every tag and everything we'll go for. So definitely, I won't be reading all of this in the videos. So if you ever get stuck, it's a great place to check. So each one will correspond with the next video. Again, that's the intro video, so we're not going to do any coding here. But once again, if you're ever lost, please, please, please check in with these checkpoints. As you can see, the real code, right? And so that leads us to our final thing for this video, how to actually view your website. As you can see here, we actually already have like this Chrome icon. If you don't see this, you should. Maybe you don't use Chrome though, but it's very easy. It should either show up like with an edge or some other icon. If it doesn't, that's a little trickier, but what we can do is, again, copy this path, right? It'll be a little different on Mac, unfortunately. And then we're going to do /index.html. And this should open our website. As you can see, it's blank, and that makes sense because if we go back to our index, it's blank. But if we do the same thing to try to open up one of the examples, right? Let's do the easy way this time, in which case, if you do see the Chrome icon, double click on it. And if you don't, if you have any problems at all, please leave a comment. I'll try to help out. But yeah, you should just be able to see a Chrome icon. And if you just double click on it, it'll open it. So as you can see, this is a bit of a teaser for what we're going to do. This is our first website's going to look like. And by the end of the series, we should get something that looks like this. So a much cleaner, almost very professional website. So again, that's kind of a look forward to what to expect from this course. But once again, if you have any problems with downloading Visual Studio Code or downloading the zip file or unpacking it or trying to see any of these in your browser, let me know. Let me know, and I'll try to help you in the comments. Anyways, this has been episode 1 of 5 for the Intro to Modern Web Dev. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you continue this course.